I've been involved with ICL for almost near the start. I had been doing some organizing work in trying to educate men on gender-based violence prevention. And I had just finished a fundraising bike-a-thon from Toronto to Vancouver when I ended up meeting our founder, Olivia Chow, who said, "That sounds really cool. You know, how do you do that, and what's going on about it?" I said, "Oh, it was good, but I think it could have been a lot better." And she said, "Great, come with me." I found a great deal of benefit, in particular from the coaching training that she's put the facilitators through, in being able to help other people tease out their stories. I remember then on our next year of our bike ride, I had a family member who had basically said to me after I did the first bike ride, like, "What are you doing wasting your time with this?" And I said, "It's important for me to try and, you know, raise this money and talk to men who otherwise aren't going to get talked with about these issues." And this family member of mine said, "Oh, okay, well, you're a student and you should go get a job." And then her and I had a longer conversation later on where I had used some of our kind of coaching skills to tease out why she had some apprehension about my wanting to do this. And she said, "I'm a victim in the way that you are talking to these men about and trying to prevent. I don't think that really people actually care all that much." And I said, "Well, I do." And I've now met a lot of people who do. And then a year later, she ended up meeting us on the ride, the fundraising ride, and brought us, frankly, countless pies, baked goods to keep us fueled up along the way, because I think that she had felt heard in no small part from the coaching questions that I had kind of probed her with in a way that I don't think would have happened necessarily otherwise. That's where I see our facilitation work having that direct impact, and not just in the workshops specifically, but with people that we meet every day. Being able to build up skills of what, you know, good active listening can look like is not something we have a lot of room to do outside of this kind of work, I think. Thinking more recently on when I saw the impact of our work, we had a couple of placement students last year who, when they were talking about previous placements that they'd had, they talked about how they were largely treated as gophers. They would just like grab coffee in the office, or they would be, you know, personal assistants and note takers and things like that. And then coming into ICL, had these experiences where we were like actually asking their opinions on things, and we're wanting to orient some of our meetings and one-on-ones as to like building the skills that they would need for the kinds of jobs that they wanted, and taking some time to find out what kind of jobs they wanted, and being able to tailor their experiences to building those skills, but also in a way that was beneficial for us as an organization to develop our capacity internally. And after their placement had ended, I remember going for coffee with one of the placement students who had said, "You know, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be able to actually like learn about these things, and especially the storytelling that you do has enabled me to be able to like convey who I am to people who ought to know and ought to care. And that's never been a thing that I knew I could even learn." And so they were really grateful, and knowing that they're able to apply it, whether it be in organizing capacity or even just like they're a recent graduate and need to know how to convey who they are in an interview. That is not something that I think is done with much much rigor. That isn't something that's done with much rigor outside of what it is we do in building skills for change. And that's only one of the tools in the toolbox, but this person also came away with understanding like the things that you care about are worth taking action on in a way that a lot of other people, I think, are told not to. And now they are a social worker out in the world. So I feel good knowing that they want to be able to carry that torch a little bit.
Part of the strength of working with ICL is the framework we teach actually really looks at the strengths that each person has. So my role at ICL is as the research and evaluation lead, which means that I get to review all of the really fun surveys that everyone loves to fill out at the end of every workshop, and get to understand what impact ICL's workshops has had on the people who are participating in them. And what we've found from that is that people do build skills. In our core Building Skills for Change workshop, that is what we're hoping they're going to do. But more than that, people say that they have become more in touch with a community that matters to them. They feel as though they have a path forward. They're more confident in the work that they're going to be doing in the community. So yes, people who come to our programs do build skills in organizing and in advocacy work, but they also find a place where they're able to connect with people who also care about the same thing and be able to move forward with confidence and competence in their organizing and advocacy work. So through my work at ICL, it's really had an impact on me personally. I've been able to get involved with different groups of people who work on issues that I really care about. In particular, I've always felt very passionately about youth work, and I've been able to work with groups of youth to be able to advocate for things within the school system that they really cared about and they wanted to make a difference in. And that's been incredibly meaningful for me to be a part of that.
I'm a facilitator at the Institute for Change Leaders. As its name is self-explanatory, a place where changes are made happen and they are real. Being a facilitator, it allows me to collaborate with people from all walks of life. It's a place that helps me give people an opportunity to express themselves fully. It is a very meaningful place for me because not only I see myself growing with them, but also see myself as a person who can be helpful to others in making a difference. I see myself as one of those lucky people who are part of this splendid experience, which is so meaningful and profound. I was facilitating and I was in front of a group of people where I noticed that many of the people were thinking that their voices or their experiences are not important. When I was able to utilize the content of the workshops and the way facilitators are trained at the ICL to help people raise their voices in terms of raising their concerns and how to express themselves. When I utilized all that, I noticed a big shift. I see all of a sudden that people who thought that their stories did not matter, they were the source of motivation for them. And all of a sudden, I saw that their eyes just lit up and they were so optimistic and so motivated to pursue their goals and ambitions. So that was very meaningful to me because it was an internal shift among people and how their spirits were so optimistic after attending those workshops.